Funding for NJ Spotlight News provided by the members of the New Jersey Education Association, making public schools great for every child. RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together. New Jersey Realtors, the voice of real estate in New Jersey. More information is online at njrealtor.com. And Orsted, committed to delivering clean, reliable, American-made energy.
Tonight on NJ Spotlight News, the state police take on A.G. Platkin, filing a lawsuit against their boss over an ongoing investigation into racial profiling. Plus, state of dissatisfaction. A new Rutgers-Eagleton poll finds most New Jerseyans are unhappy with how the state government is handling affordability and cost of living.
This is going to inevitably be in the spotlight in the next several months. This is really the burning #1 issue on New Jerseyans' minds, and especially when we talk about independence.
Also, healthcare costs for state employees are set to skyrocket in the next year. We hear from outraged workers and critics of the hikes.
Our members and the working people of New Jersey are drowning in healthcare costs. They cannot afford it.
And soccer fever. Governor Murphy and other leaders announced the return of an iconic team to play right here in Jersey.
Our city scored a goal. Our state has scored a goal. Our country has scored a goal because the Cosmos arguably are the most famous soccer club in U.S. history.
NJ Spotlight News begins right now.
From NJPBS Studios, this is NJ Spotlight News with Brianna Venozzi.
Good evening and thanks for joining us on this Thursday night. I'm Brianna Venozzi. We begin with a few of today's top stories. First, a federal judge has again blocked President Trump's order to end birthright citizenship, meaning the citizenship status for babies of undocumented immigrant parents is protected for now. A U.S. district judge from New Hampshire today granted class action status to a lawsuit challenging the order, brought on behalf of a pregnant immigrant, 2 immigrant parents, and their infants by the ACLU. But the ruling applies to immigrant children nationwide. Now, New Jersey Attorney General Matt Platkin led the initial multi-state effort defending birthright citizenship, and the ruling comes just after the U.S. Supreme Court declined to rule on the merits of that case, and instead limited the ability of federal judges to issue nationwide injunctions against the president's policies, while also, though, leaving the door open for challengers to bring class action lawsuits. The judge's order includes a 7-day stay. That's to allow the Trump administration to appeal. Also tonight, there's dissension in the ranks at the New Jersey State Police. 3 unions representing troopers are suing Attorney General Matt Platkin to block his investigation into whether police intentionally cut back on traffic stops in response to claims of racial profiling. As first reported by NJ Monitor, the unions are arguing the investigation is retaliatory and unconstitutional, claiming the state police is already under strict oversight. They want a judge to dismiss subpoenas issued by Platkin's office. The legal clash follows a 2023 report showing troopers disproportionately stopped and used force on Black and Hispanic drivers. Last year, an investigation by the New York Times discovered traffic stops dropped significantly during the 8 months after unions warned troopers their stops would be looked at more closely. Unions, though, denied wrongdoing. In June, several lawmakers introduced a bill to remove the state police from the Attorney General's oversight, just as union leadership filed an initial complaint against the Murphy administration for what they called continuous attacks. And one of the Jersey Shore's most notorious spots for traffic jams has one town pleading with the feds for help. Highlands Borough has spent a few $100,000 on police overtime for traffic control, dealing with the summer crowds waiting to get into Sandy Hook. The national park has just one entrance, and each car entering has to stop at a manned booth to pay a fee. Traffic regularly backs up over the bridge and into Highlands. The mayor there is now urging residents to contact the National Park Service with their concerns and complaints, and claims the borough hasn't been able to get help from the Park Service for years. Local leaders have pitched a few possible solutions over time, like installing an easy pass system at the entrance. But park officials say they tried a similar idea, creating a lane for season pass holders. Problem was, those folks filled up the park and caused it to be closed to day trippers, which caused even more bottlenecks from drivers having to turn around. Well, a heads up for state lawmakers. New Jersey voters aren't happy with the way government is handling just about every major issue here. A new Rutgers Eagleton poll out today finds most people, 85% of those surveyed, are dissatisfied with the way leaders are managing the cost of living and affordability in New Jersey. And residents largely feel the same when it comes to taxes. That's an area where frustration hasn't changed much over the last decade. Only the topics of health care and crime got close to 50% satisfaction by those polled. The data comes as the Republican State Committee is going through a leadership change, voting unanimously Wednesday night to elect South Jersey attorney Glenn Paulson as the new chairman. He'll replace Bob Hugin in the role. And as Democrats try to convince voters that their party should hold on to the governor's office for a third consecutive term. For more on the poll and what it means heading into November, I'm joined by Ashley Koning, director at the Rutgers Eagleton Center for Public Interest Polling. Ashley, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming on. Given all that, what do you think, what have you seen anyway, that could be driving this increase in dissatisfaction when it comes to these affordability issues?
Yeah, I mean, a lot has happened in the past 10 years alone. And this is something that we've asked about periodically with government satisfaction. Even some issues that are really supposed to be a feather in the state government's cap are not doing as well as they used to, such as education. That's something that New Jersey is typically known for. But I think what's not a surprise, like you mentioned, is seeing the numbers on taxes and cost of living and affordability. These are the top two issues New Jerseyans have told us that are on their minds, especially going into the governor's race.
I hit on a couple of the areas where you polled. What were some of the other topics in and around affordability issues and beyond?
Yeah, state budget, mass transportation infrastructure. We saw kind of middle of the road ratings again. State budget actually up a little bit since we last asked about this. And that's probably really the only highlight in terms of where these trends have gone over the past several years, as we've periodically asked them. You know, the taxes and cost of living thing is something that's not new, but, you know, especially with cost of living, New Jerseyans are even more dissatisfied than they have been in the past. This is going to inevitably be in the spotlight in the next several months. This is really the burning #1 issue on New Jerseyans' minds, and especially when we talk about independence. We see that Democrats, you know, the dissatisfaction is widespread. We see, you know, it just is a matter of degree. Some Democrats are more likely to be satisfied, of course, than Republicans. Republicans more likely to be dissatisfied. But that group of independents in the middle is really key to watch. And they're, you know, for the most part, dissatisfied with all of these issue areas.
Yeah, that's interesting. They're more so than Democrats, less negative than Republicans. How might that change or shape the messaging, the strategies heading into the gubernatorial race this fall?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be key for either candidate here. We obviously are facing what will be a competitive race. And, you know, independents are really key for either candidate to cross that finish line. So a candidate needs not only their party base, but they're going to also need to persuade. And of course, the bottom line is turn out these voters in the end. So these economic issues, it depends how the candidates decide on their messaging, decide how they want to frame affordability and what kind of messaging and framing works best, especially with that key voting block.
I wonder, what does history tell us? What does polling tell us when voters are virtually split or negative on big issues like that, whether that translates into an anti-incumbent election? Does that spell bad news for Democrats? Not asking you to speculate, but they are in charge of both branches.
Yeah, I think that's hard to say, but I think we should also rewind back to 2021 and remember that it was really when those economic issues came front and center, we saw that margin really close between Ciattarelli and Murphy. And this has typically been one of those kinds of issues that Republicans, not only nationally, but also in New Jersey have done much better on. But let's figure, let's say this is an unprecedented year, like everything else in the past decade. We have the competition of national and state level politics. We have, obviously an era of Trumpism and a second term under President Trump. And we have, dire financial situations, both nationally and statewide. So there is so much going on here, as well as historical trends on the governor race, that there is so much that can affect this outcome.
Very quickly, what does that mean for someone like a Mikey Sherrill, who's trying to do the impossible and get Democrats to hold on to this seat for the third time, when you mentioned the figures that will loom large over this election?
Yeah, I mean, so she could really carve out a different strategy for Democrats that is one about affordability. Traditionally, that has been what counts in the state, and that has been what wins. She has definitely been focusing on affordability. Both candidates have. It really depends on which candidate's message comes across more when it comes to cost of living and when it comes to these pocketbook issues.
Ashley Koenig, always good to talk to you. Thanks for the context.
Thanks so much.
Hundreds of thousands of public workers could be dealing with steep increases to their health care costs next year if the state moves forward with a recommendation made by the Treasury Department this week. It calls for double-digit increases for all health plans, hitting local government workers the hardest, followed by school employees and state government staffers. Though according to a recent Kaiser Family Foundation report, that spike mirrors the spike in employer health benefit plans throughout the Northeast. Unions, though, representing public workers are speaking out, saying their members were prepared to pay more, but not this much. Senior correspondent Brenda Flanagan has the latest on the fallout.
Our members and the working people of New Jersey are drowning in healthcare costs. They cannot afford it.
Union leader Billy Gallagher says public employees in New Jersey simply can't pay the jaw-dropping hikes in healthcare premiums proposed to kick in next year. Recommended increases announced by the governor's office range from a whopping 36.5% for county and local workers to almost 30% for school employees to 21% for state workers, including Gallagher's 35,000 active CWA members.
We understand, the union understands that healthcare has gone up. We understand there's some drugs on the market that have become more expensive.
In fact, for years, inflation's driven up the price of doctors' visits, hospitalizations, and prescription drugs, including pricey new weight loss meds like Wegovy. But Jersey's healthcare system's in what one state official called a, quote, death spiral. A police union cited one example, an officer earning $105,000 a year, paying $17,000 in premiums for family health coverage on average, would face a 36% rate hike.
It's not sustainable, completely unsustainable. Even the state treasury came out about a month ago and put a report saying that the system has failed. The system has failed because they failed it.
The administration should be leading the charge as far as reforms go and working with our public workers because they have skin in the game, both in the quality of their health care and in the outrageous amounts of money that they're having to contribute.
And Republican Senate Budget Officer Declan O'Scanlan says it's state taxpayers who pick up the rest of the tab.
And there's no easy answers. Again, because the administration has waited so long to take action.
I'm past the point of finger pointing because there's plenty of blame to go around.
Lobbyists for towns and counties expect significant fallout without a workable resolution before the rate hikes take effect.
It could affect operations, day-to-day operations. It could result in reduction of services. It could result in property tax increases. And then we have to look at our employees.
When you have laissez-faire attitude towards managing a market, this is what will happen. And it's a problem.
Linda Schwimmer heads a nonprofit that advocates for high-quality, affordable health care. She says many solutions have been repeatedly recommended, but not adopted.
It's just that we haven't had the political will, fortitude, bravery, whatever you want to call it, to take action.
Among the biggest challenges, keeping towns from abandoning the state healthcare pool in search of cheaper options and pushing the state to negotiate far more aggressively for better deals with hospitals and drug makers.
The state can go directly to health systems and say, this is the price we want.
And it's clear that they do not want to fight with the healthcare industry or the CEOs of hospitals. Well, the time has come where we need to do that.
The governor's office says he believes these rate increases are unsustainable for both taxpayers and workers. He's ready to work with all parties over the next few months to lower costs. Meanwhile, Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin announced Democrats are working on A5903, new legislation to stabilize premium costs and implement long-desired governance and transparency measures. The Assembly will take action later this month, and our goal is to have a solution in place before the rate increases take effect. O'Scanlan remains skeptical.
This was probably somewhat PR driven, scare the hell out of everyone with a 37% increase, and then expect people to pat you on the back when it's only a 25% increase. We won't be doing that because it's all a disaster.
The issue will loom large in campaigns, with both the governor's office and all 80 Assembly seats on the ballot this November. I'm Brenda Flanagan, NJ Spotlight News.
Support for the medical report is provided by Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, an independent licensee of the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association.
In our Spotlight on Business report tonight, New Jersey's energy future is on the line, and a group of leaders who work in and around the industry held an event this week with Stockton University to help residents make sense of their rising electric bills, while also laying out their thoughts on how the state can balance the need to grow supply while also making it affordable. Senior correspondent Joanna Gagas reports.
Never before have utilities been, certainly on the front burner of the political elections to basically being on the minds of our customers so much these days.
But when you hear that you're facing a nearly 20% increase in your electricity bill, yeah, that'll get everyone's attention, including industry leaders, several of whom gathered for a virtual forum yesterday to discuss this complicated issue.
We all will agree that New Jersey needs to produce more electricity in state. And I think throughout PJM, we need to make sure that there's more power being generated.
New Jersey is part of a regional grid operated by PJM, which manages the sale of electricity market rates for 13 states plus the District of Columbia. New Jersey's Board of Public Utilities President Christine Gould-Sadovi points to the rise of data centers as a major contributing factor to PJM's skyrocketing rates.
So Google is using nearly 1%, I think it was 0.85%. Of the amount of electricity of the entire United States. So one company is almost 1% of the nation's electricity. And that is really, primarily driven by data centers, not just, ChatGPT, but that's, I think, the one that everybody knows.
But PJM has been criticized for how it set market rates. And there's growing concern as the grid operator opened its auction this week to determine utility rates for next year. On Wednesday, a bipartisan group of congressional representatives from several of the states covered by PJM's grid, including New Jersey, sent a letter asking what factors contributed to the tenfold increase in electricity costs in last year's auction and how PJM plans to avoid yet another hike. But to Eric Ford's earlier point, industry leaders do all agree that New Jersey needs to generate more of its own power. The question is how.
We're not going to have any new power other than solar, maybe battery storage being another potential power source. We won't have any new power really here for at least 5 to 10 years as you're looking out, whether it's nuclear, even whether it's wind. Whatever power source that we're going to develop, we need a shovel in the ground. We need to start building that now.
What we know is solar energy as a new resource is the least cost. Solar and storage are the quickest to get online. So if we need electricity in the next 2, 3, 4 years, those are the resources that can get on as quickly as possible.
A recent poll conducted by Stockton University, who convened the virtual panel discussion, showed that the majority of Democratic and independent voters in New Jersey do support prioritizing renewable energy sources over fossil fuels, while the majority of Republicans preferred the opposite. But the poll also showed that most people blame the utility companies for the rising prices, followed by elected officials and big business.
It's not a utility issue. It is an energy commodity issue that we're facing. This is the map of PJM that we're a part of. Just so we understand, our utilities deliver that electricity. They deliver the energy. it's a pass-through for them. So I think it's important we understand that.
Christina Renna heads the Southern New Jersey Chamber of Commerce and says they want an all-of-the-above approach to our energy sources.
Look at the composition of our energy companies in our Chamber of Commerce, and we should reflect that kind of diversity because there is a needed and necessary place for every single type of energy company. What that is going to lead towards is more affordable energy costs, that energy is going to be delivered more efficiently, the more diversity we have, and there's going to be more innovation.
And while BPU says the last several months of Governor Murphy's term will be spent investing in solar and storage, there's no telling what the next governor's energy development priorities will be. For NJ Spotlight News, I'm Joanna Gagis.
Support for the Business Report is provided by the Newark Alliance presents the 2025 Halsey Fest, featuring the vibrancy of Newark's Arts and Education District and Halsey Street. Halsey, a neighborhood built on hustle and heart. The 2025 Halsey Fest schedule is available at halseynwk.com.
Well, from Jersey to the grass courts of Wimbledon, Amanda Anisimova of Freehold Township has bested the world's top-ranked women's player to reach her first ever Grand Slam final. That was after winning her semifinal match earlier today over Aryna Sabalenka. That was in 3 sets. At age 23, she's the youngest American woman to reach the Wimbledon final since Serena Williams in 2004. And if she wins, she'll become the 3rd American woman to win a Grand Slam tournament this year. Anisimova began playing tennis at the age of 5, and apparently her older sister was also a standout tennis player at UPenn. She was asked about the big win earlier today and told reporters it just doesn't feel real. Finally tonight, die-hard soccer fans are going to love this. The famed New York Cosmos are back, and they'll be playing right here in New Jersey. In the 1970s, the team put U.S. soccer on the map, bringing with it some big names, including Brazilian soccer star Pelé. Well, Governor Murphy today announced the Cosmos will return to the field in March 2026 as the newest member of the United Soccer League, just in time, of course, for New Jersey's debut as host of the FIFA World Cup final. Ted Goldberg has the details.
The Cosmos are coming back to life.
The storied soccer franchise is returning to the pitch in Paterson.
What do we know now as? Soccer City, USA. Let's go Cosmos.
Kearney is still considered Soccer Town, USA because of its rich history with the sport. But Paterson could soon become Soccer City with a pro team slated to start playing games in 2026 in the USL League One, 2 levels below Major League Soccer.
Our city scored a goal. Our state has scored a goal. Our country has scored a goal because the Cosmos arguably are the most famous soccer club in U.S. history.
We all remember the glory days of Pelé and Giorgio, and in my case, a former U.S. ambassador in Berlin, Germany, Franz Beckenbauer.
They helped transform the perception of the sport. They were a cultural phenomenon.
While previous iterations of the Cosmos brought in fans with international stars, this version of the Cosmos seems a little bit more community-oriented. Folks who spoke today said they're going to try to build stars from right here in Paterson and the surrounding areas.
In the future, we're going to have more superstars are going to come out of Paterson, Passaic County, North Jersey, who will lead future generations. And what we're building here is a club that is local, but it's about the community.
There's so many barriers to kids, particularly in communities like this, and their talent just dies on the vine. And what we're going to be about is working very hard to find those kids, 15, 16, 17 years old, get them into our system, into our club, and play them.
Among the team bringing the Cosmos to historic Hinchliffe Stadium is Giuseppe Rossi, a Clifton native who played professionally in Europe and in the Olympics for Italy.
Creating a new pathway for these young kids to pursue their dreams, to continue to develop, putting in a system in place where kids want to be here, just coming back and giving back to my community, to New Jersey, is something special.
The Cosmos are also planning to field a women's team in 2027, continuing the renaissance of Hinchliffe Stadium after years of neglect in the Silk City. In Patterson, I'm Ted Goldberg, NJ Spotlight News.
That is going to do it for us tonight, but a reminder, you can download our podcast wherever you listen and watch us anytime by subscribing to the NJ Spotlight News YouTube channel. Plus, you can always follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky to stay up to date on all the state's big headlines. I'm Brianna Venozzi for the entire team at NJ Spotlight News. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.
NJM Insurance Group, serving the insurance needs of residents and businesses for more than 100 years. Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association, and by the PSCG Foundation.
Ørsted believes that clean energy is more than just a power source. It's an opportunity to create stronger economies and communities. Together, the South Fork Wind and Sunrise Wind projects from Ørsted will provide American wind-powered energy for New Yorkers and support jobs, education, and the local supply chain. Ørsted, committed to a clean energy future for New York.
Have some water. Look at these kids. How are you? What do you see? I see myself. I became an ESL teacher to give my students what I wanted when I came to this country. The opportunity to learn, to dream, to achieve, a chance to belong and to be an American. My name is Julia Toriani Crumpton, and I'm proud to be an NJEA member.